Late last year, Netflix aired a documentary, 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible, that told the story of Nirmal Purja, known to his friends as Nims. A former Gurkha turned mountaineer, on the 23rd of April 2019, he climbed Annapurna, the deadliest mountain in the world. It was the beginning of an audacious plan Nims dubbed Project Possible, to join the handful of those who have scaled all 14 of the world's 8,000 metre plus mountains, but to do so in a matter of months rather than over many years, as all the previous conquerors had done. Along the way, Nims rescued several distressed climbers facing almost certain death, thereby setting back his chances of achieving his goal in the narrow window that weather allowed. Yet, 189 days later, he summited the last mountain on his list, Tibet's Shishapangma. It was an incredible story of human triumph over the seemingly impossible. Mountains have always had their allure. When George Mallory set out in 1924 on his doomed mission to climb Mount Everest, he famously explained he did so because it was there. When Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay succeeded in 1953, they found no trace of Mallory's long-lost party, but they marked their own achievement by leaving a crucifix and food offering before descending the mountain. Nowadays, hundreds of would-be conquerors line up shoulder to shoulder during the open season, hoping to push their limits and achieve something with major bragging rights. How many of those plan to leave some token of thanksgiving to God, I'm not sure. But it's clear that some, at least, are looking for more than fame. They're seeking the serene, the sublime, the transcendent from the top of the world. The Orthodox theologian Sergius Bulgakov said that one of the things that brought him back to Christianity from atheistic Marxism was seeing the splendour of the Caucasus. Catholics also have a fondness for high places. Just look at how many of our churches are on hills and of our monasteries are on the most inaccessible cliffs. God has a knack for making himself known in such places. Following the Great Flood, Noah's Ark came to rest on Mount Ararat, and there humanity received the promise of God's protection. To seal the covenant, God sent Abraham to sacrifice on Mount Moriah. Moses first encountered God on Horeb, received the law on Sinai, and saw the promised land from Mount Nebo. Elijah, too, was instructed on Mount Horeb. And David built his capital, Jerusalem, on Mount Sion, which the Psalms and prophets celebrated as the holy mountain or mountain of the Lord. Jesus, too, could play mountaineer. He liked to pray in high places. They were the backdrop of his most famous teachings and miracles, and also where he appointed and conversed with the 12. The mountains of Olives and Calvary were the sites of his Palm Sunday entry, Holy Thursday agony, Good Friday crucifixion, and ultimate ascension. Last week we saw him taken up a mountain by Satan to be tempted by the splendour of the nations. In part 2, as it were, we see him today back up a mountain, showing the devil and all of us just who he is. On Tabor, he reveals his glory in sound and light, as much as the Father had done in the theophanies to Moses. We can imagine the astonishment of those 3 disciples as they watched Jesus turn to light, heard God's voice, and saw his Sherpas, Moses and Elijah. The representatives of the law and prophets are eclipsed by the beloved Son, light from light, true God from true God. But Jesus isn't just showing off. When he climbs mountains, it's not for bragging rights. No, he lets us glimpse his divine splendour to prepare us for his passion and glory to come, and to promise us a share in this if we will take up our cross and follow. For we too will become partakers of the divine nature. We too will become like him. We too will be glorified in light. St. Athanasius made the point beautifully, if provocatively, when he said, God became man so we might become God. Or as Aquinas put it, in God's exitus and redditus, in creation, revelation, incarnation, and redemption, God descends to our level so we might piggyback upon his shoulders to heaven. Our whole theological endeavour at the Catholic Institute of Sydney and beyond might be said to be the unpacking of that great mystery and its many implications for our lives. Indeed, great spiritual writers such as Gregory of Nyssa and John of the Cross have described the Christian life as anagogy, climbing, journeying upward in a spiritual ascent up the mountain of God. In our spiritual mountaineering, we go where we must to pray and worship, to hear and see God, to transcend our ordinary lives and commune with him. Today's gospel reveals what it is we might hope to see at the top of the mountain, whom we might hope to meet. Jesus, the light of the world. It reveals in whose company we climb, with the prophets and saints, Moses and Elijah, Peter, James and John, the church past and present. and it tells us in what manner we should do so. With the confidence, perseverance, humility and hope of Nims. For the journey to God is indeed project possible. Step by step, we approach the summit, that we might see the glory of God and become like him. Researching the hazards and the safer routes, packing the picks, crampons and ropes of prescribed readings, traversing the ravines of course outlines, peak bagging major assignments and examinations, administering the base camps like CIS. All these things are required for the theological game of mountaineering, of teaching and learning and research. If giving and receiving any education can feel like mountain climbing, theological education has that extra element that is literally about ascending to the heights of the human spirit and of the divine, of heaven. At times this may feel all too much for you students, or indeed for their teachers. We may be tempted to turn around and seek the comfort of the flat ground, the easy path, the warm shelter. To those of you connected with the Catholic Institute of Sydney and of the other great theological enterprises, I say, take comfort in knowing that, as Peter said, "Teacher, it is wonderful to be here with you." I pray that all of you, beginning a new year of teaching, learning and research, will be guided by the light of the transfigured Lord, and that he will help you spread that light from Mount Strathfield to all the world. God bless you in the 2022 academic year.